Today's going to be a little bit of a different episode. As you can see, we've done 10 of these now, so I figured now would be a good time to go through all the things that we've done on the world so far, do some reflections, and just kind of talk about all the progress that we've made. I really feel like it's an important part of life to be able to recognize and appreciate the things that you've done, the progress that you've made. So what better way to do that than to go through all of the different builds that we've put together on this world here, talk about the decisions that I've made behind all of them, how they turned out, and then just do some general reflections on the channel and the series in general. So it's going to be a pretty chill episode, no replay mod stuff, no fancy editing magic, so I say just sit back, relax, and enjoy. And of course, before we get into all these things, I just want to say thank you so much to all of the people that have been supporting my channel, watching my videos. It really means the world to me that I can do something as different as an unscripted series, which really is quite a new thing for my channel, and have all this enthusiasm and support behind it. Whether you've been a regular watching all of my episodes, or you've just tuned in for a couple, thank you very much, my dude. And I've got something special for you guys planned at the end of the episode, but we'll get there when we get there. Right, on to the world tour. So if we can bring our minds all the way back to episode 1 of this series, that was where I put together my starter base. It is this bad boy right here. It was the first real build that I put together in this world. All I had really was some very basic farms over here. I had like a sheep farm, cow farm, really basic crop farm. And at the end of episode 1, we put this entire house together actually, interior and everything. Now, as you can imagine, for a starter base in a brand new survival world, I wanted to keep things as survival friendly as possible. You can see that I'm really going with mainly simpler, more like traditional Minecraft-esque materials, and that was kind of the whole vibe I was going for, right? I wanted to make something that really just felt like Minecraft. And I know that sounds a little bit strange because, of course, Minecraft can be whatever you want it to be. I felt like the essence, the real core of making a starter base in Minecraft is to use the materials you have on hand, the things that are nearby. You know, you don't have any fancy farms or giant piles and piles of resources or anything, so you really gotta work with what you got. And I feel like this starter base was a really good example of that. Oh wow, it is about to thunderstorm. Let me go sleep real quick. Yeah, and that's basically why I chose this block palette and all these different materials, right? Because we've got the birch from the birch forest, and all these other materials are pretty easily, you know, gettable in the first few days of a survival world. In addition to keeping things Minecrafty, I also really wanted to take full advantage of the outside area around the base. And I did just that in the next episode, episode 2, where I put together my enchanting tower, which allowed me to make my first level 30 enchantments, so that's great. We've got our kind of like hanging bookshelf design over here. Of course, as you can see, it's using a very similar color palette to the starter base. Not only are they easy to gather materials, but I wanted them to look similar since they were going to be like, you know, right next to each other anyways. In episode 2, we put together our melon and pumpkin farm over here. And of course, we really expanded our farms with the massive crop farms that are now all around, encircling my starter base pretty much. Got the wheat, potatoes, and carrots. And of course, we allocated a bit more space for our sheep and our cows. They now have their whole little pastures basically over here. And yeah, in episode 2, I really went hard with this Okay, I've been seeing these signs everywhere. Lewis put a whole bunch of these down, so if you see any more of these, that's why. I really went hard with this design of the rustic, vaguely medieval-esque stone walls and the large asymmetrical, organically shaped fields of crops. Geometric crop farms are great, especially if you're doing a redstone contraption, but I think these look really nice. I'm a really big fan of this wall design. As you can see, I put it everywhere. Going back to our starter base one more time, we can take a look at the decorations and the interior. The interior, of course, I finished up in the end of episode 1. Really wanted to make things cozy. So, you know, a lot of things are very much impractical, suboptimally organized, if you will. But that was kind of the point, you know, like, it does get kind of annoying to have all my food in these 2 barrels, all my stones all the way down here, and like all the rest of my resources crammed into this one attic. But that's kind of just the vibe I wanted to go with. You know, I don't plan on staying in this starter base forever. I'll definitely be making a more legit storage system in the future, but for the time being, it served me really, really well. Coming down into the basement, this is really more of a utility area. It's just where I store all my stone, right? So cobblestone, stone, tough, etc. It's really just meant to be more utilitarian than anything else. Of course, it looks pretty nice. A lot of different stone textures here, so it does feel a little bit messy, but I am really happy with the block palette for this foundation, so I really don't mind. Oh, and before we move on to other areas of the world, we can't forget about our 2 other builds over in this direction. If you remember, in episode 3 was when we went to the Nether for the first time. Before we did any of that, we put together our Nether portal, which still looks like an egg. When I was working on the farms up here, I noticed I had this really cool kind of proto-ravine that started all the way over there and made its way this way, before eventually sloping down into the ground and actually opening up into a really cool cave. And I thought it would be a really cool place for a nether portal, as you can see. So I did a whole bunch of decoration, made this whole sloping thing with the stairs, and patched up the cave entrance to like slap my nether portal in front of it, and it's looking pretty nice. You know, it's definitely a very subterranean kind of build because it goes quite a bit into the ground, and I think the stonework on here is the real MVP. It gives a really nice amount of detail between the stairs and slabs and the walls and full blocks, and of course the texture mixing. Really like how it became much more round and not very blocky. And of course, if we head into the nether, we can go ahead and take a look at our nether hub, which is right here. This was also put together in episode 3. Did quite a lot in episode 3, let's be honest. For this one, I really wanted to break away from the existing styles that I had been using up until that point, right? Like I had made the base, the enchanting tower, the farms, all very similar designs. As I said before, typical Minecrafty kind of designs. This one was going to be very different. I wanted to have red as an accent color to match the dark red of the nether waste biome that we're in. And of course, to contrast that, I wanted to have some white and some black or some dark gray. So the quartz and the deep slate are doing that very well. If you guys remember episode 3, you'll know that I accidentally turned all of my quartz into slabs and stairs before actually smelting it down. So I try really hard to forget that. And then of course the ceiling, I wanted to have this kind of crown molding-esque design up here, really taking advantage of the contrast and the light in the middle to make it feel very regal, very grand. This was like the middle of episode 3 when I made this. I didn't have mending, I didn't have villagers, I didn't even have like a good source of EXP minus a really basic zombie farm that I'll show you later. So it definitely took a while, but instant mining really saved my butt with that one. Let's head back into the overworld. Making our way over this way, away from our starter base area, through the birch forest, we're going to be crossing a bridge that I put together recently, I believe in episode 8 actually. So this bridge was a really cool design, but yeah, I do really like the contrast between the birch acting as a supporting arch and the dark oak and the spruce as like the main area that you walk over. It was a ton of campfires to put this thing together. It kind of used up all my coal, but it was totally worth it because the campfire over the spruce texture is really nice, and I really like this bridge. So all that starter base stuff and farming and whatever and nether stuff, we put all that together in the first 3 episodes actually, and for the next few episodes, the end of episode 3, episode 4, and a little bit of episode 5 and episode 6, we focused mainly on our industrial area, which we can actually get a really fantastic view from at the top of my quote-unquote temporary scaffolding. Coming on down here, the first thing we put together is the moss farm, which is right in the middle there. I found this massive pit, which I was talking about in episode 3 actually, right across kind of this hill, this ridge from our starter base, and I was like, wow, this would be a really fantastic place to put a bunch of farms and more rugged, like steampunky industrial things, and I've been doing just that. So we started off with our moss factory, standing at the bottom of this massive pit in the ground, surrounded by all this, you know, complex machinery and moving parts and everything. It's really cool. This moss farm has kind of served as the cornerstone for many of our other building projects. In terms of the design for the, you know, aesthetics of the farm, which I'm sure you guys are a lot more interested in, I wanted to once again depart from the building styles that I had done up until that point and make something very steampunky, very dark and gritty and industrial looking. So I wanted to go for like this metallic kind of open glass greenhouse design because the moss farm itself is really cool when you look at it. I wanted to make sure that people could look in, see all the inner workings, see the water move, see the moss move and all that stuff, and it's doing just that right now, which is pretty cool. I turned this kind of into 2 smokestacks where you've got smoke from campfires, and we've got like excess moss spilling out of the other one and kind of just collecting on the floor, almost like it's like slime or goo or something. It's quite cool. I like the effect of it kind of just overflowing off the side. That was quite a noise that I made. Since that, I've slowly been adding in more farms. The next thing we put together was our gunpowder farm. Most of the decoration is up here because the gunpowder farm is kind of just a big cylinder, or rather stacks of big cylinders that you shove cats in, and the top of it was really going to be the part that was the most visible. We've got this lattice pattern with the deep slate, which I think is looking very cool. We've got some horizontal gears, like this big guy right here, couple little smokestacky lava things, plenty of lightning rods because you can't have a steampunk build without lightning rods. Forgot to wax that block, evidently. Coming down over here, you can see the pickup area. I've been cleaning this out semi-regularly, so there's really no gunpowder in there right now. But trust me, I come back from a bigger build and this thing is really quite full of gunpowder. It's really great. And then I believe the next farm we put together was actually all the way up there. We're gonna go take a quick look at that one. I'm decently happy with the design. I think some things could have gone better, but really I was going with a very by the book standard melon and pumpkin farm designs. There is only so much creativity I could have in terms of the shape. We've got like a big box here and a smaller box here. They actually produce the same amount of melon and pumpkin. On top here, we've kind of got like our giant melon emitting smoke and our giant pumpkin emitting smoke, which I think looks really funny from a distance. And you can see we've got these windows on the side here that allow us to peer in and see the inner workings. I'm sure you guys have seen a farm like this before, so I'm not going to get into it too much. It's just a very standard melon and pumpkin farm design you can find anywhere on YouTube. The collection area that I still have not decorated, we'll get around to that, I promise. And this was put together in the middle of episode 6. We did a whole bunch of farms. We decorated the gunpowder farm, we made this one, and then after that we went and put together our bamboo farm. It's gonna take as much fall damage as possible on my way over. Unlike the melon and pumpkin farm, this design was entirely my own, which of course means that it's horribly inefficient, but it looks cool. I kind of wanted to go with like a sideways version of the design for the moss farm, instead of a hump like this, where it's anchored to the ground and going up. We've got one where it's anchored to the back wall and bulging outwards. I was getting really tired of manually smelting up all my materials and all my, ores and stone and everything, so I put this one together. The base farm design is a very common super smelter design that I'm sure you guys can find online. The actual aesthetic, I really wanted to go nuts with the kind of scary, weird, sharp, angular design here. So it's kind of sitting inside like a giant mouth, right? Like we've got these pointy lightning rods connected to this giant kind of curved C shape, which is holding this super smelter, which is actually kind of shaped like one of those Viking longbows. Definitely one of the designs that I like the most. Of course, it's not really a farm, it's just a utility thing, but we've got the bamboo from the bamboo farm coming through this pipe down here and going straight into the fuel, where then it's picked up by that one minecart and deposited into all the different furnaces. So that's our super smelter, and that is almost all of the different farms that we have in our industrial area. We're going to be jumping ahead a few episodes here to episode 9, actually, the end of episode 9, which just came out not too long ago, and take a look at our farm that we put together then, which you can see from up here is that monstrosity over there. This one is our honey farm. It was built to solve the problem of all of the copper constantly oxidizing, and it was becoming a real pain in the butt to go around and wax, or rather scrape all of that. So I just figured I'd get a whole bunch of honeycombs, wax them all up, and never have to think about them again. 51 honeycombs in the machine here, but I wanted to make something really goofy, and I definitely did that. Got this stupid thing over here with a mouthful of bees. You can see there's a few in there. It's so dumb, but I really love this thing. And it's a pretty inefficient honey farm. As I've said multiple times in the past, I'm not trying to be ultra efficient with my farm designs. I'm the kind of person that cares first and foremost about the style, the look. It was really more important to me to get something that looked cool. We'll get all the honeycomb we need eventually, but in the process, why not make something that looks really wacky? And we did just that. So that's actually everything that's gone on in our industrial area. That's another big part of the world totally knocked out there. It's been really fun working on these farms. I'm not really much of a farm builder. So most of my creative efforts go into just making the farm look cool, but that's okay. You know, I never claimed to be much of a redstoner. I'm overall very happy with how these builds have turned out. I cannot wait to pack this giant hole full of even more farms. I've got ideas. Let's just say that. Making our way up this ridge here, up this very precarious bit of dirt, which is actually how I get to and from my industrial district. I really need to fix that. Coming on over this way to the last major segment of our world here, which is my villager area. Now, of course, we have our smoke-filled industrial steampunk thing down there, and I wanted to channel the opposite kind of energy for our villager area. Now, of course, we haven't got too much here just yet. We've got a breeder. We've got 2 farmers at a bit of a melon stand, and we've got 4 librarians in a library here. But I'm sure you can get an idea for the vibe I was going for. Cute and lush and vibrant and beautiful. I was actually very inspired by Richard Scarry's Scary Town. It's a series of like children's books, and they also have made board games and magazines and other kinds of media. It's very, very cute. It's basically just a bunch of cute little animals living in a little animal town, doing their little animal jobs. And I wanted to channel a very similar kind of energy for the villagers because, you know, they're cute, they're silly, they're a little stupid. Who am I kidding? They're very stupid. So the library here, the design is an existing design that I had for a 2-door house. I just kind of modified it to use brick, and then of course I really went nuts with the greenery around here with these mossy plants and the leaves, lichen, hanging roots and all that stuff. In here is pretty cramped, but we got our 2 librarians, Silky Steve and Mending Mike. Coming up to the top here, we've got this really beautiful reading area. I am incredibly proud of this bowl-shaped roof with plenty of azalea and glowberries and other things, and the spore blossom hanging down. It feels a little cluttered, but I think it is really, really beautiful up here. Large windows on either side, got plenty of books and reading material and stuff. And if you come out this way, we've got our little deck, which I've actually converted to a map room. I haven't filled in the 12 around the outside yet. We're definitely going to be getting there when we have a little bit more progress. We're centered right about there, and you can see our industrial area, our bridge, and a little tiny bit of our starter base just off in the corner. I gotta really get those maps filled in. It's very cool to see the area develop as we build more and more. Coming on down here, we've got our other 2 villagers, Eluding Lenny and Unbreaking Benny. I have a thing for alliterations, if you couldn't tell by now. Over here, we've got a couple more pathways leading off to actually nothing right about now. I definitely have big plans to expand. I've been meaning to add a mason building for a very long time because getting things like terracotta and quartz is so annoying, and I've got so much stone to trade them. But we'll get there when we get there. You know, everything at their own pace. Coming on over this way, we've got our little melon stall. Just wanted to get some farmers in here and, you know, provide a source of emeralds. Of course, we've got Melon Mordecai and Pumpkin Pete. The last build to cover here, which is actually the first one we put together, is our villager breeder. I wanted it to look like a grain silo, and I think it has that vibe, thankfully. And we can come on up here, right in the top here, and look down on our 2 villagers who are mysteriously not there. Ah, they're sleeping. You can see them in there. They're hanging out in their little beds. Maybe if we go sleep. Yeah, let's try that again, coming up our ladder here. And we should have 2 villagers hanging out right in the center there. Yep, they are ready to be bred. So I haven't actually really needed to breed new villagers in a while, but those guys are hanging out in their little glass holding chamber, ready to be used at a moment's notice. There's just one more thing I want to show off, and then we'll get to some closing notes and a couple little surprises I have for you guys. Behind this stone wall here is a zombie farm that I believe in episode 2 or episode 3 off camera I converted into a really basic EXP farm. I forget about this build pretty often because it's pretty separated from my other builds and I don't really need it as much anymore. But you know, I don't want to forget about it because it was really instrumentally helpful for me to get my first enchantments. It's a standard zombie farm design. You saw back there was that big box where the zombies spawn. They're picked up by a water elevator, moved over a few blocks, and drop down onto the dripstone right here. We've got a little bit of a living space over here. We got, storage for a bunch of swords that I use to, go actually kill the guys. And then I dump all the mob drops into this barrel right here, which then funnels into a massive pile of rotten flesh. Maybe one of these days I'll make a cleric villager and trade away some of that, but I really don't mind it just kind of accumulating in my storage area down here. Would have been nicer if it was a skeleton farm, but c'est la vie, we work with what we get. We had a zombie farm nearby, and I took full advantage of that, and I'm happy about that. Alright, with that zombie farm out of the way, there's actually only one more build that I'm going to be showing off for you guys, and then we will have finished the world tour of our entire series. And it's off in this direction. You guys probably already know what I've been putting off. It's something we put together relatively recently, all the way over in our world spawn. There's the Arctic fox again. Oh man, I've been meaning to catch you. I just don't have any sweet berries. It's very disappointing. Coming on over to this section of the world, you can see our spawn pavilion. We've got the central design here with the fountain, and the copper is finally oxidizing, but you can see I'm using this cool quartz and smooth stone design because it really reminds me of the old spawn pavilions of like really old classic multiplayer servers from way back in the day. In each quadrant here, we've got these beautiful little pathways with the leaves and bushes and stuff, just adding as much greenery as we can into this otherwise rather generic looking forest. And of course, off in this corner, we've got a gnarly old swamp tree. This was put together by my friend Lewis and I. In case you guys need a bit of a refresher on how the world works, every once in a while, I'll have one of my real life friends join me on the server. We've had 2 so far, Protocol and Lewis, and there'll definitely be more. Usually we hang out, work on something, maybe do some resource gathering or caving or mining or whatever, do some chatting and have a good time. Eventually, they'll come back and we'll dedicate a build to them in our spawn pavilion. So of course we haven't done Protocol's build yet, but Lewis and I put this together. He prototyped the design and we built it in survival. It's this gnarly old swamp tree that I think looks pretty cool. We've got a whole bunch of moss and swamp foliage, tons and tons of leaves covering the branches, dark oak roots. I think it turned out pretty well. Finishing up this world tour where everything began at the world spawn, I think that's quite nice. And with this all discussed and shown off and taken care of, that is everything that we've done. 10 episodes worth of progress. Things are looking pretty good. I've just got a few final things to say before the video ends, mainly about reflections and reassessing our original goals and everything like that. First of all, to answer the question that might be on some of you guys' minds, is the survival series ending here? No, definitely not. I still want to make many more episodes in this world, make a bunch more cool builds and redstone farms and everything, beat the Ender Dragon, beat the Wither, do all that lovely Minecraft stuff. We will definitely be getting around to all of that in the future. The second question you might have is, what's the goal of the series? What are you trying to do? And I know that really differs from Let's Play to Let's Play, so there's often a lot of ambiguity there. For our series, I wanted the goal to be to fill the world with a bunch of really, really cool builds, especially turning the area around my starter base into kind of different zones, right? Where we have that cottagecore and cute villager area, and a more industrial, like steampunky area with all of our farms in that giant hole in the ground. I wanted to mainly start with those areas, but that doesn't mean we're going to be limiting ourselves to just a few different areas. I figured that a really good way of tracking our progress would be to use a map. And if you see over here, I have prepared just that. You can pretty much see everything we've ever done. The spawn pavilion is a tiny bit cut off, unfortunately, but that's okay. We can just kind of leave it off. So I've constructed this whole thing as a memento. I'm thinking that every 10 episodes, we're going to make a new one of these and line them on up next to each other in our spawn pavilion. And it's going to be a really great way of benchmarking our progress. You can see episode 10, March 20th, 2022. And yeah, you can see everything. Starter base, enchanting tower, farms, bridge, villager area, industrial district, pathways leading off to the spawn pavilion, nether portal area, and of course the giant lake that is kind of the center point of all of our builds. But you can also see that there's a lot of empty, untouched, undeveloped land, in particular up here this big snowy mountain, and even down here we've got a whole other lake here that I've basically never done anything with except grow a lot of sugarcane along the edge. In the next 10 episodes, I want to make it a priority not only to further develop our existing 3 areas, but to really expand and terraform the surrounding landscape. I want this entire 3x3 section of map to be covered with beautiful and awesome Minecraft builds. And of course, we're going to be doing plenty more collabs with my real-life friends along the way. Let's see how far we can get. Last but definitely not least, before we finish off this video, I want to say a huge thank you once again to all of the people that have been commenting and supporting my video. I'm going to have a list of names on screen right now. So if you see your username on screen here, just know that I really appreciate all the support through the past 10 episodes, and I hope you stick around for the next 10, because we're gonna have a lot of fun, trust me. Until next time, gamers, this has been Leon, and I will see you all in the next 1.18 survival episode. Stay cool, my dudes.